Have you heard about this guy, Jeffrey Epstein? Have you?
Yeah.
Financier.
Yeah. I know what you're referring to. Okay, big conspiracy theories. He's a terrible person. Did a lot of perverty, terrible things.
Correct.
An island with young women, like under 18 young women, I mean.
Yes,
also
correct.
As girls, I'm not sure. Big scandal. He died in jail. A lot of conspiracies, a lot of speculation about how he died. So this was like a huge MAGA topic because, lots of claims that everyone from Bill Gates to, you name it.
Stephen Hawking,
lots of people have got some connection with this guy. And so a lot of talk about a list. There might be a list, a client list that is there. So now the MAGA is in power and you have all of Trump's stooges running the show. They have access to all the files. They either have nothing to release or are they hiding it? So the interesting thing about this is a portion of the MAGA base has turned hard on the Trump administration because for them, the conspiracy theories come first. And they absolutely believe there must be a list. And if they're not releasing it, it must be that they are involved.
Like you said, there has been a bit of a fracturing around the MAGA base in regards to response to this. And to highlight the kind of MAGA Trump position on it, right? Or specifically the Trumpian line. This is Trump responding to someone bringing up the topic to Pam Bondi, a journalist asking questions about it, right? So this is Trump's line.
Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
So nothing to see here, right? Like, why are you bringing this up? Nobody cares about it. This is not true, right? Like, in part because Trump and his surrogates and very many senior people in his administration did make this a big deal, right? As part of their campaign, but just more in general. It's like part of conspiratorial lore, right? So arguing that nobody cares about this doesn't work. And the impressive thing is like Trump continues to like double down on that, right? Like I'm just going to read, he made a big post on Truth Social, right? And said like, what's going on with my boys? And in some cases, gals. They're all going after Attorney General Pam Bondi, who is doing a fantastic job. We're on one team MAGA, and I don't like what's happening. We have a perfect administration, the talk of the world, and selfish people are trying to hurt it all over a guy who never dies, Jeffrey Epstein. For years, it's Epstein over and over again. Why are we giving publicity to files written by Obama, crooked Hillary, Comey, Brennan, and the losers and criminals of the Biden administration, who conned the world with the Russia hoax, 51 intelligence agents, the laptop from hell and more. They created the Epstein files, just like they created the fake Hillary Clinton, Christopher Steele dossier that they used on me. And now my so-called friends are playing right into their hands. Why didn't these radical left lunatics release the Epstein files? If there was anything in there that could have hurt the MAGA movement, why didn't they use it? They haven't even give up on the John F. Kennedy or Martin Luther King Jr. files. No matter how much success we have had securing the border, deporting criminals, fixing the economy, energy dominance, a safer world where Iran will not have nuclear weapons, it's never enough for some people. Blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And it goes on. So a typical, coherent message from Trump there. But the message is clear, right?
Yeah.
Move on. This is causing like fractions in my movement and there's nothing to see here.
Yeah, I mean, his response to that reporter, that's his kind of usual playbook, usually in the past oriented against like mainstream journalists who ask him questions that he doesn't like. So he just goes on the attack, right? You shouldn't even be talking about this. Screw you. You're terrible. I'm not even going to talk to you. So running that playbook on journalists that are probably in his little club of right-wing people who are speaking to a topic that the base is fully innovated on. And like you say, this is something that the administration has played upon. It's harnessed so much energy from that conspiratorial lunatic faction and uses it for its own purposes, targeted against the Democrats. But you see these interesting situations where usually Trump can control the narrative and direct the conspiracy theories in any direction he wants, but sometimes he loses his grip, and I think that's a situation here, right?
Yeah, though I think it's only temporary in a way, because I'll give you some examples. So Andrew Schulz is a Rogan Sphere podcaster, comedian guy, right? Before the election, he had Trump on, give him a very softball interview, like everybody in that space. Just for context, Matt, he used to be on another podcast where he was more of a sidekick, and his nickname was Alt-Right Andy. He himself claims, he's not political. He's not political in the way that Joe Rogan is not political, right? But listen to him responding to, Trump telling them, you'll hear him and his little podcast cronies talking about the issue.
You'd imagine that in order to keep the files from coming out, it's got to go all the way to the top, is my assumption. Unless there's some type of hidden agreement where it's hey, we're going to protect him from information so that he doesn't sound crazy and he can just kind of run with whatever the mainstream narrative is. But the fact that his tune is even switched up leads me to believe that he has some info.
He knows something. So the reason he knows it because he's we're gonna showcase, we're gonna talk about this guy. They ran on it. They ran on cleaning out the swamp. They ran on all these.
They brought all the influencers, gave them all binders with all the shit that was all redacted.
Do you remember this?
Yeah.
They tried to promote this. They were building this excitement up for us to just get, I don't know, what is it? What is the term? The wind taken out of our sails?
Yeah.
Whatever. So the fact that his tune has changed from, hey, let's have a social media moment with the binders, to, you guys are still talking about this guy? Yeah, we're talking about it because of you.
Yeah.
You're the one that keeps the conversation going when you hand out the binders to the social media influencers.
Yep.
It is interesting, isn't it? It doesn't occur to these people that they're being lied to. They're being spun a narrative right from the very beginning. It's a struggle. You have to put yourself in the minds of the people that believe wholeheartedly that Trump is a great force for good, that he's draining the swamp, that he's the least corrupt person in American politics, and he's telling it like it is. And you have to put yourself in that mindset where you believe all of the stuff which kind of the rest of the mainstream or Democrats just go, well, this is just pure propaganda and nonsense or lies. And for them, yeah, I guess it is whiplash. I mean, this is the way I see it, that Trump is good at manipulating people, but he often loses track of who believes what, and I think may miscalibrate the degree to which he can say, oh, don't worry about that. Forget about that now. I want you to focus on this.
Well, I want to remind people that I said when Joe Rogan announced his support for Trump and whatever, I predicted, like Gary, I'm never wrong, that he would face some moments where there would be bad media around immigration stuff or policies that Trump did. And being Rogan and the spineless figure that he is, he would kind of argue, well, this isn't what I, set out to support, even though the very harsh immigration is a clear part of Trump's, crackdown, on immigration is part of Trump's campaign. So that has happened. Andrew Schulz is also part of that. But they do pontificate for a while about what if Trump is in these materials and that's why he doesn't want them released, or his associates, right? What if he's been got to, and what about this? But then listen to where it turns, because I think this speaks about how people can, resolve the cognitive dissonance, and we'll hear more examples. But this is another possibility, okay?
Trump is compromised.
So Trump's compromised. Let's go through. There's another scenario. Let's assume Trump isn't compromised, but the intelligence communities come to him and they basically say, this is us. This is what we do. There are a lot of people here that are going to go down if you out this. And the reality is you're not going to out this. And I would like to take this a little further. There's a version where the intelligence community comes in, they go, you don't really run the country. You get to make a lot of decisions, and that's fine. But you look the other way at the things we do, and we look the other way at the things you do. And then once the things you do cross paths with the things that we do, we remind you that you don't really run the country. The idea that we have a new person running the country every 4 years or 8 years and they plot the course of America for the next 300 is kind of absurd. right? Like there has to be some version of permanent government. Obviously it's not established and they're not like speaking about, they're not shining a light on it, but like there must be some version of this permanent government that like maintains the course and does fucked up shit to maintain the course, just like every other country that's run as a dictatorship does fucked up shit to maintain the course. So it wouldn't be shocking to me that that happened. Maybe he's involved, maybe he's not involved, but he could have had a conversation. They could have come up to him and be like, we missed on purpose, right? Like they could have sat him down in a room and be like, we missed on purpose, right? He goes, what? He goes, the guy who had the perfect shot on you from 100 meters away or whatever, like we missed on purpose. You didn't look at a fucking sign. Looking at the sign got you closer. But we missed on purpose. And we won't the next time unless you tell people to look the other way about this Epstein shit. To me, I would not be surprised at all if the CIA and the FBI actually are running the country.
It's always beautiful to watch in action how conspiratorial reasoning works. Like you said, Chris, it's all about resolving cognitive dissonance. Trump is a superstar. Yeah. He's our golden god. The Epstein thing, definitely real. The dossier has to exist. How can we make these articles of faith connect together like jigsaw pieces? Oh, here we go. The deep state in collaboration with the blah, blah, blah. I like the other one where he's got bad advisors because that's so medieval. The king can't be responsible. If he knew what was going on, he would sort it out. But, there's bad advisors. He's surrounded by bad advisors. But this is good too, that the deep state has gotten to Donald Trump, who is a pillar. But, he's just one man, Chris. He can't. There are these forces at work. Like, you can't change it all overnight.
Well, I mean, they tried to kill him, Matt. So in that version of the story, the Thomas Crooks guy, the shooter who was killed, right? Like after attempting to assassinate
you think they
Trump.
wouldn't kill, one of their own agents just to, are you that naive, Chris?
No, but so they were sending a message because they intended the best, but like, fortunately, Trump didn't move his head too much because this time they were like, actually, you got closer. And then they were like, right, take him out. Like, he's done his duty now, this patsy, like, take him out. Like, Matt, it's so, and, you remember the conspiracy before was like, was it DEI or there were people like from the deep state that were allowing Trump's security to be compromised so that the shooter could try to get him. And it was just like by luck that he survived, right? Or Jesus, like, moved the bullet, whatever the case might be. But so the conspiracy is just always whatever it needs to be in that moment to like fit the narrative. So you hear there, right? Like in that version, they did discuss the possibility that Trump's at fault. But, when they're discussing that, you can hear them be like, but he, like, is he like that?
We don't,
is he that?
You can
but
tell
when
we
it's
don't.
this, they're like, oh, this wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, that's right. You can tell the tone of voice. They don't like that explanation. They don't like it. So just keep thinking. You'll keep thinking.
Yeah. Are we naive?
No.
Are we idiots?
No.
No. It's the FBI. It's the FBI, man. Yeah.
But like, there must be some version of this permanent government that like maintains the course.
It was funny to hear Andrew Schulz puzzle out the notion of the civil service, right? Like there has to be something. Like 4 years, we can't just completely change everything, right? There must be some consistency in governments. Like how do they function if we just change everything every 4 years? It's like they know nothing. They know absolutely nothing. So like their answer is, oh, there's like a secret government, right? Which like never changes, the Illuminati. Like God forbid they would know anything about like civics or term dates or how governments function in general. And now another example of this, Matt, just to show that like the people that are assuming this is going to crack his base, I think they're being overly optimistic. So Charlie Kirk, Turning Point USA, giving a speech in front of everyone and saying like, is Epstein a big deal for you? And the people are like, yeah, right. And then Megyn Kelly, ex-Fox News reporter, now very influential conservative pundit, right, comes to talk about it. And let's hear the line that they take. Is it critical of Trump? Let's see.
Well, this is the first big scandal, I'd say, of the Trump administration that's on Team Rational. It's not a fake media scandal like the left tries to create for President Trump every other day. It's one of the right's own making, and it's not going well. And it has to do with Jeffrey Epstein. Yeah. Let me just ask you, make some noise if you care about the Jeffrey Epstein scandal.
Raise your hand if it matters a lot to you. Raise your hand. So every hand of 7,000 people.
Everybody cares. I think
A lot. I said a lot. Every hand.
Here's what I think is happening. I don't think President Trump is focused on this. He's focused on a lot of other things which are going great, and he needs to be focused on those other things. Jeffrey Epstein's not the most important thing on his agenda by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, he's crushing it on the tariffs, foreign policy, just got nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. If not Trump, then who? Honestly. Barack Obama got the Nobel Peace Prize after 9 months in office. He had done nothing. He gave a nice speech about Muslims, and they gave it to him. So President Trump should be getting the Nobel Peace Prize, and there's all sorts of things he's focused on. I just don't think this has captured his attention quite yet. But it needs to, because it's starting to create a real hornet's nest within the administration. And I've got to be honest, I blame Pam Bondi. I'll tell you why, okay? I have nothing, yes, incompetence, yes. I have nothing against Pam Bondi as a human being. I was fine with her nomination and her confirmation, and she's been loyal to the president. And I get that President Trump needs a loyal attorney general. Look what happened with Sessions the first time. He went away, and then the next thing you know, we had the Mueller investigation, and it was a nightmare. But there are a lot of other people who can be loyal and competent in that job.
Pam Bondi, the
She's
bad
the bad
advisors.
advisors. There has to be a fall guy. I like this too. It was the same in like Stalinist type dictatorships as well. There's a problem. There's a scandal. Someone's got to take the fall. Someone's going to go up. Hopefully, Pam Bondi.
But Comrade Stalin obviously doesn't know about it.
That's right. That's right. I remember when they when there'd be a setback that couldn't be concealed. For instance, the Germans, encircled some army and captured 300,000 soldiers. Someone's going to get taken out and shot. But Stalin, it's not his fault. Yeah, it's wild, isn't it? Like, their base runs on conspiracy theories, and mostly it's all consistent, right? Because it's very clear who the bad guys are. The bad guys are the Democrats and foreigners and etc.
And the deep state.
Deep state.
Like, they've constantly got like that fallback that anything that happens when they're in power, it's like the deep state is responsible, right?
It's so deep that even when you have your own people staffing all of the executive positions, it's so deep that even they can't stop it. It's a juggernaut. You know what I mean? You talked about cognitive dissonance, and the way you can tell when people are operating like that with these post hoc rationalizations for things is that it just, like you said, shifts around to suit whatever they need to be at the moment. And so we had two of them already. This is the third one, that he's distracted. He's got other things on his mind. You know what I mean? He's focused on the tariffs and stuff. And,
the tariffs are going great. He's going to get a Nobel Peace Prize.
Is Trump at fault? Well, yeah, because he maybe should be focusing on this that we all care about hugely. But he's just, he's so busy on really important stuff. It just hasn't captured his attention yet.
Yeah.
Once it does, you'll see Pam Bondi's head will roll. Okay, there'll be a couple of other things that'll happen, and it'll be fine. Don't worry.
Yes, the evil Pam Bondi. Are there others?
And so now you have a situation where her words on the record on Fox News are diametrically opposed to what she put in this memo. She's embarrassed the president. She's embarrassed herself. And Dan and Cash, to the extent they've had to sign off on that, let's understand the FBI is controlled by the DOJ. FBI is subservient to DOJ. She's their boss. That they're in this position where the only comments they've made on the record as administration officials have been, we don't think he killed himself, and we don't think he got murdered. We think he did kill himself. We've looked at the tapes, and Cash to Joe Rogan saying, if I saw all these tapes of Jeffrey Epstein with little girls, trust me, I would show you, but I haven't seen it. Okay, so what they're saying now is consistent with what they've said since they joined the office, and that is one of the many reasons why this scandal is squarely on her. And I'm telling you, I'm of the cable news universe. I've seen it happen a million times. People get thirsty. They love to see themselves on television. They love to see their names in the Klieg lights. They love the attention. They love the little emails and texts and tweets and thumbs up they get after their appearance, and they can feel their star rising. And listen, internally, I'm told there's a bit of like a power struggle between Pam Bondi and another female administration official on who's going to be the top dog. We've got a great bench behind President Trump. We've got JD, we've got Marco, we've got Hegseth. We've got a lot of people who could potentially be next up. But there are some women who've got their eye on that role too.
It feels so feudal, doesn't it? Like, you've got the king, and you've got this circle of advisors and counselors, privy counselors, and top aristocrats who are all sucking up to the king and maneuvering, madly around each other. And, some of them get a knife in the back, even when they've been acting totally on behalf of instantiating the king's wishes. I mean, if anyone has read those amazing books, Wolf Hall, right, which has got about the Tudors, right, Henry VIII and his advisors, right. So he's a perfect analogy. And you had, hopefully I don't get the Cromwells mixed up, Thomas Cromwell, I believe it is, not Oliver Cromwell, the Civil War guy. Thomas Cromwell, one of his advisors, at least as portrayed in fiction, captured this perfectly, where he's an operator, very smart guy, always working hard on behalf of the king, trying to make his crazy schemes happen. And he, just like a lot of other people close to the king, got his head chopped off because it was convenient at the time. Now, if you look at, I'm not familiar with this story and the details, but it looks like, these sort of stunts that she was doing with having a whole lot of people with binders and stuff like that filmed in front of the office and stuff, like that's exactly the kind of stunt that Trump would approve of, right? Like it's very similar to the stunts that Trump does himself. But she's now inconvenient, you know what I mean? That stunt's inconvenient. The king's got to distance himself from it. So chop, the other advisors are coming. Someone else will get a chance to have the job. It is so futile, Chris. That's my point. It's scary.
So that's the kind of MAGA space reactions, right? Like you can see them grappling with it. But this is why I'm not optimistic about this leading to like a permanent splintering of his base or this kind of thing. Like it will be something that comes up, but like they're conspiracy theorists, right?
Yeah.
They ultimately can create a conspiracy.
They can resolve any inconsistency. That's right. And you can see that with Joe Rogan as well. And you saw it with those guys. Like when Joe Rogan's seeing stuff on the news he doesn't like that seeing, like normal everyday Americans getting dragged out of school or whatever and taken away in handcuffs, put in a van by people wearing masks. Of course he doesn't. Nobody likes that, the look of that. And he doesn't like it and whatever. But you can see the gears grinding and you just know that, like scientists telling him that vaccines work and him sort of reluctantly kind of accepting that new information, you just know that he's going to find a way to paper over it soon, such that he can resolve everything again to fit his worldview. So yeah, I agree with you. I think the cult of personality is strong, and the conspiracy theories are fundamentally so malleable that it'll get reconciled.
Though I will say, like, I've noticed that this particular event has become like a attention magnet online. Like I've seen commentators who don't cover political content making Epstein videos, right? Like commentary on it, because it's like kind of broken out of the politics into like a thing. For me, it's very obvious that this is a very shiny like object for people, because one, it involves like elites and child abuse, right? Which is something that already is like a very prominent motif, right, in QAnon and so on. And in this case, there is a financier guy, right, living a luxury lifestyle, but he actually did do things. And we have like, documents to prove that. Then you have a suicide, which is completely unsatisfying. Anytime somebody is killed or like assassinated or dies of suicide, right, it leaves people wanting more, right? Justice was not served. JFK was shot, but somebody can't just be shot by like, a random extreme person. If Trump had been shot by that guy.
Yeah, that's right. Significant, meaningful outcomes have to have significant, meaningful causes in human intuition.
Right. And in the case of Jeffrey Epstein, he was in jail facing a large amount of jail time, right, for very serious accusations. It was his second time, and there was a lot more emphasis on him being hammered for it, right? There was public information coming out. He was facing financial and reputational ruin and possibly 40 plus the end of his life in jail, and he committed suicide, right? And that's what the evidence suggests. But obviously that, that doesn't fit. Why would that happen? Like they took him out, right? They didn't want them to reveal things. And
no, I hear what you're saying. The narrative has very broad appeal, right? Just by its absolute characteristics that goes beyond just, MAGA conspiratorial land. For everyone, this is going to feel left and right.
Left and right.
it has the right characteristics.
It's got the like anti-elite things, and it's got a suicide, and there's like anomalies, right? Some video wasn't recording, or all these kind of things that show up. And on top of that, you have what we just talked about, the absolute hypocrisy of the conspiratorial MAGA thing, right? You can play these clip compilations. Coffeezilla made like one, which is just showing Kash Patel, Dan Bongino, Pam Bondi making all these lurid claims and, promises that they'll release all this stuff.
Bill Clinton.
Nice guy. Got a lot of problems coming up, in my opinion, with the famous island with Jeffrey Epstein. That island was really a cesspool. There's no question about it. Just ask Prince Andrew.
You say that the FBI has Epstein's list. They're sitting on it. That doesn't seem like something you should do. You're protecting the world's foremost predator. That seems like an evil thing to do, regardless of who may be embarrassed in the release of that list. Why is the FBI protecting the greatest in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list.
Who killed Jeffrey Epstein?
This doesn't look right. It doesn't look like a suicide.
Epstein's an intelligence asset for people in the Middle East, right?
And then saying, there's nothing here, move on.
If there was a video of some guy or gal committing felonies on an island and I'm in charge, don't you think you'd see it?
If you have access to it.
If I have it, period. Right. If I have it.
Right. If you have it.
Right.
But you can't say that you have it.
No, we're giving you everything we have.
So far.
Everything we have so far is...
Have you guys gone over all the video that's available?
Yeah, that's what I'm telling you. That's what takes so much damn time.
Did Jeffrey Epstein himself, or did somebody kill him?
Senator, I believe he himself in a cell in the Metropolitan Detention Center.
Are you going to release all the information about that?
Senator, we are working through that right now with the Department of Justice.
You said Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide. People don't believe it.
Well, I mean, listen, they have a right to their opinion, but as someone who has worked as a public defender, as a prosecutor, who's been in that prison system, who's been in the Metropolitan Detention Center, who's been in segregated housing, you know a suicide when you see one, and that's what that was.
He killed himself. You want me to? I've seen the whole file.
The Epstein files. What's the answer to that?
The answer to that is the same as everything else. I'm not going to withhold information from the American public ever, but I'm also not going to rush to get it out there in a format in which they can't rely on it. So on the Epstein matter or any other matters, we are diligently working on that, and it takes time to go through years of investigations, years of political maneuvering, and years of cover-up to get the American people what they deserve. And that's what I'm going to give them. And you're going to get the video of the cell. And you're going to see for yourself.
So, like, there's an obvious hypocrisy to it, right? Like, it's a good thing to hammer Trump with. So, like, if you're anti-Trump, this is a good attack line now. And it's one of the things that's landing. So, in that respect, like, it's even appealing to me, just like, the conspiratorial stuff is annoying, but I'm enjoying seeing Trump and the MAGA faithful, like, do so many mental gymnastics to try and justify their position, right?
Yeah, no, so we could be wrong. I mean, I think you shouldn't underestimate the power of the cult of personality over the ability of a conspiracy theory to sort of take them down, because the conspiracy theories can just be changed. They can find different explanations that exonerate Trump, no matter how implausible they might sound. But there is like a fundamental inconsistency there, right? Which is hard to resolve. You see them struggling with it. And I think it goes to one of the core problems that a movement like MAGA has when it's in power, because conspiracy theories work best, right, when someone else is in power, right? The bad guys are in power, so who knows what they're up to.
Yeah.
We can't get access to the files, release the files, what's happening in area fucking 57 or whatever it's called.
51. Yeah. 57. That's the one no one's talking about. Yeah.
So they work best like that. So when your conspiratorial movement has grabbed the reins of power, is now running the show, it becomes a bit more challenging, right? Because that's the problem. Like, they're still acting like conspiratorial loons. They're still, doing these stunts, having people with dossiers march out on the lawn, making crazy claims. But it's like inconsistent fundamentally with the fact that, but you guys, like, you can sack anyone you like. Like any of these, like you run all of these bodies, And you can fire generals, you can fire, CIA people, FBI people. They are in charge. Any fool can see that. So when they don't come up with the goods, because they've been promising, so much, so many secrets, and there's no goods to come up with because there just aren't any. And several figures, not just Pam Bondi, like other characters too have been like, I forget his name. Is it Bongino or is it the other guy?
Pam Bongino, Kash Patel.
Kash Patel, that's who I was thinking of. They're a bit stuck because they have to say, look, I'm sorry, there's no files. And they're like, you're in on it, you bastard.
Yeah. Well, so this clip, Matt, will show Tim Pool a little bit. I have another one of Tim Pool reacting to it. And you'll hear Destiny like reacting to Tim Pool, right? Because I think he makes some good points here about like how conspiracies expand and contract as they need to. So listen to this.
Cash and Dan are being largely discredited as well as Pam Bondi. So I have no idea what this is or what's really going on. I think the best estimate, the best estimate is, I think Cernovich was saying this. What do you think they were doing the past several years? The reason there's no evidence is not that Pam and Cash and Dan are covering it up.
Oh, it said it was all being deleted or something, maybe. Was that it?
It's that the Democrats covered it up a long time ago.
Like, just think about how fucking stupid this is. So we're powerful enough to... It can't be everything. You can't have all the power at some times and then none of the power other times. So we're powerful enough to have a billionaire, get him out of jail for free in 2000 or whatever when he got caught the first time. He's blackmailed all the rich people. He's able to stay out of prison and cover everything up. We're able to kill him in federal prison when we need him executed, even though I don't know why he would have even been arrested. I don't know why we ever arrested him. Can't we just tell the cops not to arrest him? Why would we do that? Or why would we charge him with these big crimes? Can't we make up like an IRS crime? Why would we charge him publicly with the pedophile thing, letting everybody know the pedophile list exists? And then, okay, fine. Well, we'll murder him in prison because we have the power to kill him in a federal prison, but we don't have the power to tell the feds not to arrest him, I guess. That seems like it'd be a lot easier. Why wouldn't we just kill him in his house? Why wouldn't we just throw him out of his plane or make his plane crash or a million other ways to kill him less conspicuously than in a federal prison? Okay, well, whatever. Fine. We do that. Okay. Well, we kill him, so we took care of that. Oh, shit. But what about all of the ongoing investigation stuff? Well, we're going to have to delete the evidence of that, but not all the evidence. But we're strong enough to get rid of most of the evidence, but not all of it. And then somehow Pam Bondi gets wind that there was it's just so stupid. Like, none of this makes what's happening here. Hello?
Yeah, that's a good point. I guess there are limits in terms of the inconsistencies, even in conspiracy theories, right? There's a lot of inconsistencies to kind of reconcile there in the narratives.
Yeah, Destiny, I have to give him credit here because his response to this, along with Contrapoints, she tweeted out about this, has been one of the few which is noticing the rampant conspiratorial response to it and not engaging in it, right? Like discussing it, but not endorsing it, which is the clear, important distinction. And there he's pointing out that like whenever it comes to Epstein conspiracies or any conspiracies, there's a constant like contraction and expansion of how powerful these malevolent entities are, right? They can send in an assassin who can remove Epstein in the 1 minute of missing footage or whatever the case might be, but they can't stop him being arrested, right? Like they can delete the files, but they still, leave enough that Prince Andrew needs to do a settlement out of court or all this kind of thing. So like it's constantly shifting around and often contradictory, the level of power claim. But you can hear Tim Pool there that like Megyn Kelly was hunting, like, can we meet Pam Bondi, the villain? And Tim Pool's suggestion is like, why not just the Democrats? Like, why don't we just make it the Democrats did it? They deleted all the stuff. Like, that's the usual villain. So
it's almost like they're just openly developing their conspiracy theories in public, not even pretending that they believe them, just whatever is convenient. Hey, Chris, I have to mention something though, just it's related. Because I just looked at Twitter and an account Book Squirrel, which is funny. They quoted that the Eric Weinstein "we need to start preparing" interview that we covered earlier, and they said Eric Weinstein is the only person alive so desperate for recognition that he actively associates himself with Jeffrey Epstein. And I thought that's true. I mean, he does, right? He keeps mentioning how.
Oh yeah, he named drop that he had a meeting with him
so many times. I think I've heard it 5 or 6 times. He was not involved, and he felt really bad. But it's like, why is this happening? He wants to be associated because that puts him, in the powerful network. Anyway.
Oh, yeah, yeah. And by the way, Matt, of course, his brother, Brett, right? His response has been that, like, yeah, I'll just read a couple of his tweets. The revelations of the past few days don't change whether I trust Trump as a person. Of course he does, right? What we learned is that dealing with the Epstein operation is above the president's pay grade.
Whoa.
He mentions that basically because, this outcome, that this is proof of Goliath. And welcome to the Infinite Truman Show.
So Brett's definitely going for that, for conspiracy version C, whatever version we're up to. I like that one, that there is this deep state, this incredibly powerful shadow network of people who are really running everything, and the president is powerless in the face of it. Yeah.
Oh, well, Matt, there's one I forgot to mention, which we have to give credit to, because Scott Adams gave a characteristically, bespoke take on it. So listen to this. If you see the Epstein story as a crime story, which of course it is, you probably favor maximum disclosure of everyone and everything involved, including innocent people, like a typical court case. If you see the Epstein story as something bigger, involving more than one nation, you might see it as a commander-in-chief issue, meaning the public is not meant to have the full story. Similar to most national defense issues, we elect the president to decide, in part, what the public can see.
Oh, I like that one. That's great. So Trump, so in this version, what letter are we up to now? In this version, Trump knows there is stuff going on that we don't even know about. There are international interests, there are national interests, there are lots of balls to keep up in the air, and he can't tell us. He can't make it public because things would come crashing down that we don't even understand. Wow, thank you. That must be such a burden for Trump to carry.
Yeah. The poor guy. But Matt, this is a time to mention as well that, like, the part that's not disputed about Epstein by anyone, right, is that he was involved in sex trafficking of young women, primarily for himself, where Ghislaine Maxwell, her convictions are off, right? So, like, there's this refrain that keeps going around that she was convicted for trafficking women to no one. But she was convicted of trafficking girls to him, right? So that's the bit that she was found guilty for. Now, there is also various accusations and settlements out of court with other figures, right? Like notably Prince Andrew and some other people, right? There is a network involved in the sense of, like, there are associates and there are other people than Jeffrey Epstein that, like, have had sex with underage girls, or, like, had rich people paying for escorts or girls, like, forced into it to, satisfy their needs, right? Like, these things are not disputed. There's, like, huge $1 million settlements out of court with people being sued, right? And there's Epstein, who was facing a humiliating trial, a guilty verdict, mainly for activities tied to himself. But that's all, like, on the record, right? Like, Ghislaine is in jail currently. Epstein is dead, and there's a trail of evidence, right? There's victims and all this kind of thing. But there's actually another aspect of it where Epstein is alleged to have basically been a front. This is like Eric Weinstein's version of it, and a lot of people's, where he is an agent for it. It is either the CIA, the FBI, or Mossad, right? The Israeli intelligence agency. And he is, like, funded to collect incriminating videos of wealthy people in order for them to be controlled, right, by the American or Israeli government. So, like, he might seem like a creepy old rich guy, but actually he's like an intelligence asset, right, that's gathering all this information. And that's the bit, that's why he had to be executed. That's why they can't release the files, because it's all sensitive information that would incriminate the government.
Right.
So that's the general thing, because, like, why was he assassinated in jail? That's usually linked to that they don't want this information to come out, right? So now I'm going to turn to Coffeezilla, because Coffeezilla, Matt, somebody who we like a lot, right? If we're talking about in-group tribes, Coffeezilla is a member of our tribe, right? We had a nice interview with him. We generally promote his content. He's facing a terrible lawsuit from Logan Paul, who is a horrific person, and he does very good investigative pieces. But around this Epstein thing, Matt, he has a second channel called Voidzilla, and normally he releases like 1 or 2 videos a month, and they're mostly about, like, additional information on investigations he's doing or topic he's covered, right? Like interviews that aren't on his main channel or whatever. And it's a popular channel. Videos typically get like 500, 600K views, right? But uncharacteristically, in the past 8 days, he's released 7 videos. So almost 1 video a day. And they're all on Epstein. And they're getting 1.5 million views, 2.8 million views, 1.3 million views, 1.8 million views. And a lot of them are just talking about like reacting to specific headlines, right? Like, oh, they've released a video, but there's a 1-minute section missing. What does this mean? Or Epstein footage was modified, right? Like, so it's kind of like reacting to breaking news, which Coffeezilla doesn't usually do. The bit that's a little bit disappointing is I watched these videos. Some of them are fine. There's one where he's just collated all the statements of the Trump officials, showing them making their statements about the conspiracy and then denying the conspiracy. But a lot of it also falls into the realm of anomaly hunting, right? Or like analyzing videos or commenting on the metadata in the raw footage that was released and what it means. It was kind of depressing because it's like there are disclaimers, there are things, like, well, I'm not advancing the conspiracy. I'm just asking questions. But like, if you look at all the comments under the video and you read the tone, the very clear notion is that there is, a there, right? It's just asking questions, but not in the form of an investigative journalist, more in a conspiracy hypothesizer kind of way. The bit that gets me a little bit with Coffeezilla is he responds to things like Pam Bondi saying, I have the videos on my desk, there's thousands of hours of footage, or I have the list of names. And now she's saying there is no list of names, right? Or like the footage doesn't show. But like, she's a conspiracy theorist, right? She's like a Trump MAGA person. So of course she's made outlandish claims.
Yes.
And then they don't line up. So like, that itself is not evidence. Like it's that selective trust thing, right? Like where when Trump claims that he has evidence for something, it doesn't mean that he actually does. If he then goes on later to say there was no evidence, you can't say, well, he must have seen the evidence.
Yeah, that's right. He had to be telling the truth then, and he must be lying now.
And I think part of it is that Coffeezilla's got a bit black-pilled around, the Trump administration and not prosecuting anybody, going back on lots of things around, the various cases he was following. Like he released a merchandise shirt, which wasn't related to this, but is now, being promoted as part of this, which is crime is legal, right? So under the Trump administration. So I think part of it is like that. He's just enjoying, the Trump administration getting a black eye for once, but to be doing it by leaning into the anomaly hunting stuff. Like I'll play your clip, and this is a game with Destiny reacting, because the other aspect of this with Coffeezilla covering it is because he's a popular guy, his videos are then taken and reacted to by various other streamers, right? So like you'll have people who aren't in this kind of area now doing things on Coffeezilla's content, right? So he's like a kind of hub from which it expands out from. And anyway, this is Destiny reacting to a little bit of him talking about stuff around the footage that was released.
You're going to want to look at this time, and you'll see in about 3 seconds it will jump and the framing will change. So there you can see there was a cut or some kind of edited footage. And it obviously begs the question, why is there a minute missing from the FBI's like prove it tape? But also, what does this tape even prove? As I said, this is not Epstein's cell, nor is this his cell. We're going to show you what that actually looks like.
Like the fact that this is happening right at midnight, I'm going to assume there's some software thing or whatever. Like, would they really explicitly and deliberately cut that 1 minute of footage and leave it in? That would just be so stupid. I don't know.
Here's the framing we see. And now we're going to compare that to the official report, June 2023, of Epstein's cell. They lay out a structure of the jail cell and the jail itself. And here you can see it's a 2-leveled system. There's a lower tier, there's an upper tier, and Epstein was in the L tier, okay? Here is where...
So is it the theory that they went into his cell, killed him, and then staged the suicide in a minute. It's kind of like lab leak. There's always like 4 or 5 theories that people are jumping back and forth between at any point in time. I've heard everything from an inmate killed him, like opened a cell door, went and killed him. The cops went over and killed him, like the prison guards. He killed himself, but he was forced to do it by somebody threatening him. Like people will retreat or move between very fluidly every conspiracy theory simultaneously, depending upon what part of the, like who they're arguing against. You know?
I saw a thing by Nick West, who specializes in video. I totally trust him when it comes to analyzing videos.
This is his bread and butter.
Yeah,
Yes,
and
yes.
I think he pointed out that that's kind of what these closed circuit TV cameras do. Like at a particular time of night, they need to download data or reset or something. Like,
so the one with the missing video is that they said all the cameras that are on this like old software, they reset at midnight. So there's like a missing minute of footage as the tape like rewind, right? Every time it hasn't been updated in 20 years or whatever. And they said it's the case in all the videos that are running on that software in the prison. So that's their explanation. But the other thing is that there's another video where Coffee is like noticing there's somebody walking up an area where, according to the report, maybe there shouldn't be someone there at that time. So, but here he's saying like this video footage isn't even relevant, right? Because it's looking at the wrong area. So it's like, there's 3 different things. And then another one that gets added on is the metadata for the raw footage that was released has things that suggest it's been edited or like clipped together in Premiere Pro, right? And like all these kind of things, Matt, like it's important to try and keep in mind what's being claimed, right? Because like if it's the 1 minute of missing footage, that's the important thing, right? So that means that the claim is that they exercise the most important, like let's say they're lying, right, about the explanation. So somebody was able to like, you know, go in and do the assassination in 1 minute and leave and set it up so that he appeared to have like hung himself on the bed, right? That's a high level assassin. We're talking about Winter Soldier levels.
I've seen Mission Impossible, Chris. They plan these things out.
It can be done. In that case, so you've got these super efficient assassins, but they didn't assassinate him before he was arrested, right? They never considered doing that. They waited until he was in a jail and like, you know, facing trial, and the public's attention is already there. So like you've got these hyper proficient assassins, but anyway, that doesn't actually matter because this video was off the wrong location. So it wouldn't matter, right? And if they are doing all this high level editing and stuff, and they're, you know, this proficient, so why would they release a video with like the 1 minute there? Like just to leave a breadcrumb?
As someone who doesn't know all the details and doesn't care, the surface level of it looks exactly like a conspiracy theory, like an untrue one. Because anytime you see people, you know, intensely going through videos and looking for little weird glitches and things and drawing massive conclusions from them, and like you said, inferring from this like the alternative, the counterfactual that is being implicitly proposed is incredibly intricate and unlikely, then it sticks to high heaven. It's unusual. It seems out of character for Coffeezilla to be so on board with that kind of thing. Like you said, I guess it makes sense because the Trump administration and Trump himself, I think, do commit a lot of crimes, right? Are incredibly corrupt, right? It's generally of the more boring kind, like releasing meme coins and various things that benefit them financially in terms of not keeping a proper arm's distance between governance and their business interests. This seems more like the lurid, unlikely variety. So, you know, like there's always the possibility that some conspiracy theory thing is true, right? There's always a possibility, but on the face of it, it seems very unlikely.
Well, so there's an aspect of this, like, because I look into the, you know, as I look into details, I just see so many of the trademarks of like the way conspiratorial reasoning works, right? Like Coffeezilla, one of them, like he does include disclaimers, right? Where he says, you know, I'm not endorsing this, I'm just asking questions and whatnot. But he mentions about like this statement from Alexander Acosta. He's like somebody associated with the Trump regime. So he was also involved in one of the initial Epstein cases, and he allowed him to get this sweetheart deal, right? Like a plea deal that give him like basically very limited jail time, right? A very minor slap on the wrist given the the charges. And when this was brought up, he's being, questioned about this, right? And there's this thing that people say where there's a quote attributed to him where he says, like, the reason for the low punishment was that he was informed that he was Jeffrey Epstein was an intelligence asset and it was above his pay grade, right? Which is damning, right? If you hear that. And might go to explain why he got such a soft deal, right? Then I was like, okay, that's a hugely damning thing. So where's that from? And I went to look up that public statement and I traced it back to, it's from a Daily Beast article, which is not citing him. It's citing an unnamed Trump administration person relaying that that's what they heard. And he never has confirmed that. He's never said that publicly. There's no statement of him saying that. When asked about it publicly, his general statement is just, I'm not going to comment about, that case. It's blah, blah, blah. But so there's no quote of him actually saying that, but it's kind of gone through, because then it's reported from other sources that link back to the Daily Beast article. And then Coffeezilla will mention in a video, Acosta described Epstein as a, intelligence asset. And you're kind of like, there's lots of details like that where normally someone like Coffeezilla would go in depth, on those kind of things. But here it seems a bit more like discourse surfing, which is depressing to say the least. And I listened to QAnon Anonymous's coverage of this. And in a similar regard, one of their hosts, Julian, in the whole thing, he's just constantly, saying, okay, this is a crack in reality. They want us to believe this.
This was supposed to be the one good thing that came out of having all of these idiots, unconcerned for their own safety, get into these positions, is that maybe out of pure spite, they were finally going to release some of these documents, so the public could have some kind of clarity on just how many people were truly involved with this sex trafficking ring.
It's a no-brainer. The deal they get is just they talk a big game, they access power, they get set down, they get told, okay, on one side, we could find and kill everyone you've ever loved. On the other side, we'll help you be powerful. It's it's a no-brainer. It's a fucking no-brainer. It's just so right there in front of us. It's so fucking outrageous.
What kind of room do you think? Do you think it's kind of like The Office? It's I don't know, cheap fluorescent lighting above with an Nespresso machine and a little basket with some creamers and stuff in it? Or do you think it's kind of in a vault or an interrogation room?
Bro, it's a fucking Chipotle. That's where we're at. Someone's sitting across from you. They have the shitty burrito bowl or whatever the fuck. And they're like, hey, man, I'm going to be straight with you. You have a choice to make.
If you listen to it, as I do, I listen to Red Scare's coverage of it and QAnon Anonymous and Coffeezilla's and all these different people. And there's a lot of through lines in the responses.
So the client list refers to people who actually, he had a written list of everyone who procured an underage prostitute from him. Obviously they're not going to release that.
What I am interested in is the nature and extent of his intelligence ties, the behind the scenes stuff that we're never going to learn about. The truth, again, is probably somewhere in the middle between him being a high-level blackmailer of the elite pedophile cabal and a relatively harmless party boy with an appetite for underage women.
Why'd they kill him? That's what I want to know, is what went wrong?
Yeah, I mean...
Why'd they arrest him? Why'd they kill him?
Yeah.
What's going on?
Yeah, and why did they arrest him then?
Exactly. When he had been arrested prior.
There are not that many people that pause and look critically, because as long as it's attacking someone that they don't like, be it the MAGA administration or rich elites, it's it's fair game, right? And of course, rich elites do nefarious things, and there are all these intrigues and whatnot. So, you think that rich people have our best interests in heart. And just to say, Matt, you and I don't like MAGA. I don't like Jeffrey Epstein abusing children.
Your dislike of MAGA and mine too is well documented. There's clearly no sympathy there. No, I know what you mean. It's easy to see when people you dislike, other factions, whether MAGA or someone else, who are into conspiracy theories, it's easy to point at them and laugh. But when it suits you, you know, like not really caring about evidence, not really caring about whether or not the logic stacks up or start getting incredibly intricate to justify the thing you want to believe. When you don't care about that, because the outcome of that is something that appeals to you, then you're just as bad as them. Like, you're not doing it right? It's the other, pointing it out in other people, that's easy, right? When it's something that appeals to you, that's hard. And that's why I think you and I are both a bit stuck on Gary's economics, right? Because, like, we get it, right? A lot of people who like our show, and us too, that narrative that the rich people are screwing us over, right? There needs to be more redistribution.
Yeah, they
right?
are.
There needs to be more redistribution of wealth, all that stuff. We get that, right? We understand the appeal, and it's appealing to us too. But this is when it's important. This is when it's important that you actually exercise critical thinking and concern for evidence. And if you pay attention, if it doesn't add up and it's telling you a narrative that feels satisfying, feels right, then you're not really that much better than the MAGA lunatics who have conspiracy theories about Satanists doing things in, what was it, a Pizza Hut or something? I forget.
And just to highlight then a difference, Matt, and this is part of why whenever we've talked about like Destiny and Hassan or whatever, we've generally been more favorable about the way that Destiny covers conspiracy theories and research, because he does do differently, and that isn't endorsing the broader suite, right? Like, it's the same thing that QAnon Anonymous are in general very good in their coverage of like QAnon and far right things, but like, you don't have to then ignore when they, are leaning into the conspiracies because it like fits with political leanings or whatever. And like, I just want to play this difference between Destiny reacting to the Coffeezilla coverage and Hassan. Just to highlight what I'm talking about, okay? Listen to this.
Sorry if I'm spamming this question, but why are lefties and fellow libs like Coffeezilla now trying to say the conspiracy is true? It's so stupid. Well, no, I think everybody believes this conspiracy. Everybody hates billionaires and rich people and the wealthy elite, and so it's a story that everybody wants. But if you read this Office of Inspector General report on the prison stuff, it's like, I get it. Yeah, it's not satisfying, or well, it doesn't satisfy the conspiratorial part, but it's like, the Peter guy knows about AJW. Oh no, does he praise AJW? And before, the guy's a massive Trump supporter somehow. But like, when you read this, it's like, that prison sucked. That prison was fucked. There was a lot of dumb shit going on. They interviewed a lot of other cellmates. They find out that finally the medical examiner who performed the autopsy detailed for the OAG why Epstein's injuries were more consistent with and indicative of a suicide by hanging rather than a homicide by strangulation. The medical examiner also told the OIG that the ligature furrow was too broad to have been caused by the electrical cord of the medical device in Epstein's cell, and that blood toxicology tests revealed no medications or illegal substances were in Epstein's system. The medical examiner also noted the absence of debris under Epstein's fingernails, marks on his hands, contusions to his knuckles, or bruises on his body that would have indicated Epstein had been a struggle. Which would be expected if Epstein's death had been a homicide by strangulation. It's not the first time that the OIG has found significant job performance and management failures on the part of BOP, which I believe is the Federal Bureau of Prisons, personnel, and widespread disregard for BOP policies that are designed to ensure that inmates are safe, secure, and in good health. For instance, the OIG's December 2022 investigation and review of the BOP's handling of the transfer of James Whitey Bulger identified serious job performance and management failures at multiple levels within the BOP. Similar to the Bulger report, the numerous and serious transgressions that occurred in this matter came to light largely because they involved a high-profile inmate. The fact that serious deficiencies occurred in connection with high-profile inmates like Epstein and Bulger is especially concerning, given that the BOP would presumably take particular care in handling the custody and care of such inmates. Regrettably, the OIG has encountered similar issues on many other occasions. For example, the OIG has investigated numerous allegations related to the falsification of official BOP documentation concerning inmate counts and rounds, several of which have resulted in criminal prosecution.
Like, it's understandable that there was an investigation because it is all remarkably convenient, right? That this guy dying, that all makes sense. It's natural to have suspicions, and even today, you might be well justified in thinking that there is a non-0% chance of funny business. Being taken off suicide watch despite him having made a previous attempt and so on. But as is pointed out there, he's implying, I suppose, in reading out all those points, the New York City medical examiner ruled it suicide by hanging and looked at a lot of medical evidence. And if your response to that is, oh, well, he must have been in on it too, then think about what it is you're doing. The DOJ Inspector General investigation found no evidence that the suicide determination had a problem. And again, if your response to that is, well, they must have been in on it too, right? Then you need to take a bit of a look at yourself. And the baseline, the counterfactuals, you've got to think about the counterfactual, which is, one, as you pointed out, this guy's life is over. All right, he's public utter ruin. He's looking at the rest of his life in jail. Right? If anyone's going to be suicidal, it's going to be him. And prison suicides do occur. Right? They occur quite often in facilities in the United States and in Australia too. There's documented problems with, neglect and understaffing and, not monitoring the prisoners properly, all of that stuff. And the conspiratorial explanation for events requires huge amounts of coordination by a variety of unconnected people across a whole bunch of different levels of government. And it is assuming that there is a there in the sense that, to my understanding, what we know is that Epstein himself, Ghislaine, Maxwell, and legitimate suspicions around people like Prince Andrew, right?
And some others as well. Yeah.
Yeah, a couple of others as well. But that's kind of it, right? In terms of what you actually know, in terms of the network.
Yeah. There are other people that were employed by Epstein that have come up in court cases and, being accused of knowing things about, what's going on and so on.
Yeah, but in terms of the rich and powerful people, it's a pretty slim dossier at the moment, right? Everything else is conjecture.
Well, yeah. Oh, yes. Because I was going to say, the dossier is long, right? Because there's mentions of people in flight logs and all that expand.
Oh, yeah.
Very wide,
but
right?
Again, that doesn't prove anything because it's
no.
Because what is known.
People like to put Steven Pinker's image beside him and imply that reads him. But it is very likely that Steven Pinker, viewed him as a science financier who was a bit annoying and eccentric, like he suggested. And yes, he submitted a defense for him as part of his court case, but it was it was him defining a term and all this kind of stuff. So yes, maybe it could turn out that there's tons of evidence linking Pinker, but until that evidence emerges, the general thing would be Pinker is a celebrity pop science guy who this is the kind of person that Jeffrey Epstein liked to give money to.
The way I'd put it is that the null hypothesis, the one in which involves no conspiracy, is that he is worth hundreds of millions of dollars. He's a networker, a schmoozer. He's been photographed with thousands of rich and important people.
Yes, he has, all of which is true.
So by default, you would assume that he's going to be flying around with people, that he's going to be connected to a huge amount of rich and powerful people, because that was literally his job. That doesn't necessarily mean he was giving them access to young girls in order to...
Yeah, although statistically, you would also accept that some of them are going to be perverts.
Yes,
right?
yes.
That's the other aspect of it. And in some cases, there's going to be incidents where they're involved or at parties.
But what was
Ghislaine?
I feel like I'm pronouncing it wrong. But Maxwell's testimony, right? Because she is convicted, right? The guy's dead, so presumably she'd be very happy to take any kind of plea deals or whatever to give the goods on anything that she knew about. Did she not testify to give information about these other people who are purportedly involved?
Yeah, so I think she was I mean, I don't remember all of the specific details of the case, but I know that now she is trying to capitalize on the interest, saying she could give, information if kind of trying to angle for a plea deal or a chance to address Congress or whatever. But in general, I think her, defense was trying to push things onto Jeffrey Epstein and minimize her thing. But it was very clear that she was involved. But the thing that she was convicted for, 5 out of 6 charges, they all involved her procuring and being involved in the exploitation of girls for Jeffrey Epstein. Right. So whenever people are who was it for? It's him. That's what the vast majority of evidence reveals. She was somebody, grooming and soliciting people for him. And also like she was involved as well. So that is the majority of what was happening. But there are other people like that show up from time to time, powerful people like Prince Andrew and whatnot, right? So it is likely there are other people involved and whatnot. But there are other people, Matt, that have been like in cases. There's actually another guy that nobody mentions very much. I think a French guy there was a lot of evidence for to also be involved with things. He'd also got previous charges. He was in jail and he committed suicide.
Yes. Oh, is it Brunel? Is that the guy?
Yeah.
But anyway,
So
we're getting, we got stuck in the weeds. We're getting into the weeds. We don't, I mean, look, I don't, whatever. Just pointing out that, look, real world conspiracies exist. Shady stuff happens. Rich and powerful people get up to hijinks. Absolutely true. Time will tell to what degree there is, there might be some other rich and powerful person who's found to have an association and there is evidence for it. But just until then, you just got to be guided by evidence and reason, I think. You can't just jump on board things because they're convenient. That's the point. I'm not making a hot take. What I don't want to do is give the impression that I've got a strong opinion about the theory itself, apart from the fact of just be conservative in your opinions.
Well, I think in general, the notion of like there's a client list line somewhere with like a list of names and they're like blackmail evidence right beside it. Like that's just an imaginary like fantasy that people have. That's from all the documents that's been released and stuff. It's nothing like that, right? Well, one last clip that shows like the kind of way that maybe isn't ideal to respond to this is Hassan reacting to the Coffeezilla video.
Today we're talking about Jeffrey Epstein. The big update, which is just that he had no client list and offed himself. That's according to Axios in a big scoop document from the US DOJ and FBI, kind of a joint statement.
Yeah, guys, you don't understand. So he was trafficking in no one and killed himself for no reason. Yeah. You don't understand. He was trafficking for no one and he was just doing it for the love of the game. He was just like a serial sex trafficker but just for himself. And all of the people that were, that he was hanging out with, like they all just happened to really like his vibes and they were not clients of his. The hours and hours and hours of videotapes that were uncovered in the raid because all of his houses were taped. Okay, all of his houses had a shit ton of security cameras everywhere. Okay, and there were hours and hours of tapes that were recovered from these raids, and the tapes were named, like the tapes had names on them, right? But he was just a guy who loves videography and he was just doing it for the love of the game. He was not filming people in his mansion doing sex crimes. Those people were just there because they loved chilling with Jeffrey and they had no idea that he was even though he went to jail for it.
Yeah. So that's different from Destiny. Yeah. So Hassan's all in on this shit, right? This is like, he just takes it as a given.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. And I think that's the default. And the point I would make, Matt, is like a lot of people ask for things like, they're kind of like, we want reports on what happened and we want investigations. And then like that report that Destiny was reading from is a investigation into the circumstances of what happened around Epstein's death, right? But the amount of people that actually read that will be minuscule, right? Like so, or the amount of people that believe it even if they do go to read it.
Certainly Hassan wouldn't read it.
No, but that's one of the things like that I feel is a little bit damned they do and damned they don't. Not to give credit to the Trump administration, but like if they don't release the video, right? Like they said they had the video, right? And Pam Boland actually said, well, it's not the video of the cell, but it kind of shows that, the narrative doesn't fit because you can't see people moving when they're supposed to have done the deed. And she said it's not conclusive, but like with the other stuff, it's conclusive. Now, when they release that video, then the argument is, well, why are they even releasing this video? And look at the details in this video that make it like, and why haven't they released, the other thing that they said? Like, so it kind of goes both ways. If you release the video, it will fuel the conspiracy. If you don't release the video, it will fuel the conspiracy. Right. So this conspiracy, I'll say now, will absolutely never die, no matter what, new evidence emerges, whatever is released. This is now like conspiracy lore on the left and right. And you will not see a lot of responsible conspiracy hypothesizing. You will see a lot of rampant anomaly hunting and conspiracy theorizing, and it's kind of a shame.
Yeah, it's just a shame because we keep doing this. It's not like there's a lack of precedent for these conspiracy theories that just have a life of their own, that it doesn't matter how many investigations or how much evidence gets compiled, and people try to satisfy the desire to find out about the JFK thing, for instance, right?
Yeah, the files came out.
Yeah,
they didn't reveal that it was like a secret plot, and that doesn't matter.
Yeah, and so when you call for investigations and the results from the investigation come out and it doesn't support your theory at all, then you would expect that the support for the theory would decrease. But when that doesn't happen, then it's a pretty strong marker that, there is no disconfirming evidence that will work. So yeah, no, you're right. It's a forever now. It'll be added to the long list of conspiracy theory lore from the 20th century and the 21st century and just become accepted fact.
Like there's also competing autopsy analysis, right, and stuff around Epstein. But like if you look into the people involved with that, it's people that have made a lot of very questionable claims about other autopsies and like high profile cases. So yeah, it's an endless thing. And if you want good resources on this, I will say there's a podcast called Some Dare Call It Conspiracy. They did 3 or 4 episodes on the whole Epstein thing. And they're actually ex-conspiracy theorists, right? I think they sometimes lean a little bit into like anti-conservative conspiracies in the UK, but nonetheless, they're very good at gathering all the evidence and presenting the conspiratorial narrative, right? And then like talking about the relative strength of the evidence. And they do that quite well across these like 3 or 4 episodes covering the case. So if you want like more, details on that, that's something that I would encourage people to look at. And in any case, I think this is going to stick around and be like an object of interest for a while, but it is now conspiracy lore. So it, like the lab leak, like the JFK assassination or the moon landing, this is now just like part of the canon. It's in there. So get used to it. You're going to be hearing about it every time Eric is interviewed. At least you're going to hear more about it. But yeah,
that's fine. That's fine. They bring people pleasure. People enjoy them. Let them have their fun. What's the harm?
That's right. That's right. Don't take people's toys always. Yeah, and look, one other message I'll just give to people is like, it's perfectly fine to have areas that you agree and disagree with people. Like my stance is now, don't trust anything Coffeezilla says. He's been tainted and a liar, right? It's just like, no, this coverage of this is a little bit, conspiracy prone. And that doesn't mean that his next investigation into like crypto scams is going not like something that you should heed or that kind of thing, right? We are nuanced thinkers, man. That's the way it works. And our in-group expands ever larger.
Yeah.